Welcome to another edition of Tell Me How You're Mighty. Tracy Shawn and Sarah Gorrell delving into the world of infidelity. And today, Tracy, we look at where it all begins,
Oh,
the red
yes.
flags, how
Mm.
you know. And I think quite often it is an instinct. You know that your other half is cheating, but you try and tell yourself that you're wrong, especially given that they're so good at saying, well, you're mad. I'm not cheating.
Yeah. Their gaslighting game is good, right? And in the beginning, I mean, I talk about spackle, making excuses, which a little bit of spackle is kind. Like we all do that to a certain degree. We give people the benefit of the doubt, or if they're not being their best selves that day, we give them grace because that's what good people do. But fuckwits like weaponize that and they can be really shady. And they're also really good at lying and conducting double lives. So we reached out for voicemails and social media and we got quite a few red flags. But before we get into it, did you have any red flags, Sarah?
Oh, the whole lot of them. In fact, I've gone through all of these submissions, and I have to say, pretty much all of these things, on the phone all the time,
Yeah.
losing weight, accusing me of having an affair,
Oh, yeah, that's a
pretty
classic.
much everything that's on this list, disappearing, long hours at work,
Hmm.
just pretty much everything that people have submitted. I have encountered this.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know, right? Because then I think data matters, right? And when you get enough of these stories together, you can see the patterns and, you can be suspicious and you can do your due diligence and
I
snoop and look.
I think the first one, yeah, the first one, I don't think he's on here, Tracy, or I might have missed it. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Did you encounter that one?
Well, that one usually comes with the discard. I didn't get that while I was dating. My red flags were the ones you were talking about. The biggest red flag I had when I was dating, which I would now see as a red flag, I didn't when I was younger and dumber, was that he was hot and cold. Like he was really into me, and then I wouldn't hear from him for a while, and he would cancel dates. And I had enough of that. Like to me, that was I really liked him, or at least the person he presented himself to be. But then I got tired of the bullshit. And I said, like, I'm breaking up with you because you canceled our last date. And I was a single mom. Guys know what it's like. You want to go out, you got to arrange your life. And my time is valuable. And I told him that. And now this should have been the red flag. Okay, so when I dumped him, he blew up my phone. He did not respect my boundaries. He kept chasing. And I gave him a second chance. And that was my mistake because then he was still cheating in retrospect, but he took it underground and he was good as gold, right? If he made a date, he kept the date. He didn't screw me over again. And I thought, oh, look at me with my boundaries. I'm so good. I spoke up. And no, I was dealing with somebody who was very inconsistent in word and deed. And I will contrast that then we'll get into our red flags here. I just wanted to contrast that to when I met my husband Paul, because people were, how can you trust again? Whatever. It felt so different. And the way it felt different was when I was with that hot, cold, on off thing, I always felt off balance. And when I got to know Paul, it was more of a friendship and it built organically, slowly, and it always felt safe. He was very consistent in his words and deeds, and it was in. So I didn't have like the butterflies and the roller coaster. I just had someone who felt safe, and that's what I tell people to look for. Look for people who feel safe.
And I think that's it, isn't it? So I suppose my red flag, I love you, I'm not in love with you, that comes when
Mm,
you don't think your other half's having an affair, but actually they are. At the beginning of relationships, it's all this business of you've known them 2 days and suddenly you're their soulmate, you're going to get married and they can't live without you and you're meant to be, and there's stars and flowers and hearts. And then you get through all that and then normal life creeps in and suddenly it's I love you, but I'm not in love with you. And
mm.
that
Yeah, it's
actually
harder.
translates into look at me, I'm a magnificent beast, I'm so noble, I love you, but I'm up to all sorts of antics behind your back, chasing the sparkles and the stars and the fluttery butterflies that you are no longer providing. But it's okay because I can behave as badly as I like because I love you, so that's fine. So I'm a wonderful human being. So that's kind of the beginning and the end of it. I think the beginning is the you're my soulmate.
Yeah.
I'll live without you, and it ends up with the I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Should we start with some of the voice messages that we've had? So let's hear what Jay has to say.
Okay.
So I was not familiar with narcissism when we started dating. I was young, and that word seems and sounds like an ugly word. And he was so attractive and personable and funny and outgoing, and everybody seemed to love him. And that's exactly all the things he told our marriage therapist, who came back and said, "But you're not as good of a guy as you portray yourself to be, and you've done some terrible things here." And she pulled me aside to tell me, he is a narcissist. You're dealing with a narcissist here, and you need to probably start finding lawyers. And that was a big wake up call for me. Uh, of course, for her, she got to see everything on, all presented in front of her at once. But for the rest of us, we see things in little drips and drops. You meet someone and they're wonderful and they're showing you this great face in the beginning. And then maybe there's an incident here or there. There's a lie. There's another lie. There's, something that just seems off. But you're already at this point drawn into the person. And so it gets very difficult to separate what you've known as a mostly good pattern with these incidents that are sprinkled throughout. And one of the big things, of course, was drinking. I noticed he drank to excess. He didn't care that it affected our relationship, his relationship with his child. He wanted to treat himself, and he thought he deserved anything and everything he wanted. And that included affairs, multiple affairs. So looking back now, I can't believe I missed all the signs, but they dripped out slowly over 20-ish years.
I so who would know what a narcissist is, right? Unless you have had the unfortunate experience of tangling with one. I'm so glad that her therapist was upfront with her and told her that's what she was dealing with and told her to call a lawyer. I think that's magnificent, whoever that therapist was, to give her very clear and direct advice. And you know, I the whole lying and the little lies and covering up for the lies, and I don't know, what do you think about that?
I think it's interesting because narcissists are very good at making you think that they're amazing. They
Yeah.
draw you in. They wouldn't get up to all their antics if they didn't have some charm and ability to make you feel special. And then it's just when the sort of true character starts to come out, and the lies and all the behavior, and that's when their shallowness becomes apparent. But by that time, it's almost too late. They've lured you in, and you want to believe that. You want to
Yeah.
think you're with someone special and wonderful and clever and witty, and everyone else loves them. So why shouldn't you? And actually, if you notice from what Jay says, it's a lot about what he wanted to do, his behavior. Never mind the other people in his life. They were all just secondary.
Yeah. I was, yeah, to that point where she says he thought he deserved anything and everything. And that really resonated with me. When I look back, I should have seen that the person I was dating with was very selfish and materialistic and had a lot of everything, including girlfriends, as it turned out. Um, but yeah, if you're dealing with that entitlement mentality and it's not reciprocal and this person doesn't share your values, that should be a huge red flag. And I was the other thing I wanted to say about narcissists, because the term is thrown around a lot, and we're all armchair shrinks, and I just why I just call them fuckwits, you know. But sparkly people, whatever we're going to call them, I, now that I've been on the other side of that, I'm very suspicious of anybody who's overly charming. I love charm, I love witty banter, I love all that kind of thing. But normal people have some kind of social anxiety or self-deprecation. They relate in a more human way. They don't love bomb you. And I know when I was a vulnerable single mom on the dating market and I met my fuckwit, I was very vulnerable to that kind of razzle dazzle. You're the best person I
Well, I
ever met.
think we all are, aren't we? Don't we all want to feel
Yeah.
special and that we're someone's soulmate and that they'd never meet anyone else like us? But actually, you soon realize that these are very shallow words, and they are easily transferred to a brand new affair partner without a
Yeah.
second's thought. One minute you're the love of their life, and the next minute you're a nuisance that's driven them to an affair, and that's how it all goes.
Yeah, you're all interchangeable. And I think it's really a disturbing bait and switch because you think this person has just convinced me that I'm amazing. And then, and then they just swap you out for another person they find amazing. And I think that's when we project our values on them because we don't go, I'm sure you don't go around, Sarah, like going, you're amazing to
No,
people.
you're not amazing.
Also because you're British and British people don't do that from what I understand. Like you don't emote in a few or effusive in your praise. But it's just like it's not a normal thing. So you would think that when someone's telling you that you're amazing, you're like, wow, that's only reserved for super special occasions and super special people. You know, it's you want to believe it, right? You know.
Let's hear. This is a list we have next from Michelle of red flags, which I think a lot of us will relate to.
Oh yeah.
Here's a list of red flags for you both. I think these are really just so cliche. My fuckwit was a real cliche. Let's see, he started losing weight. He would exercise more, and he was asking me how to dress better. He asked me how to whiten his teeth. He was completely obsessed with his phone to the point that our 9-year-old son even said, "You're in love with your phone," to him. Um, he would lock himself in the bathroom with his phone. I no longer had a passcode. I couldn't get into it anymore. Not that I ever tried, but I discovered that later. Um, let's see. Oh, he was suddenly traveling. He'd never been on business travel really, and he was suddenly, quote unquote, going on business travel. And we used to meet for lunch quite a bit, and we stopped doing that no matter how many times I asked. And when he had any kind of business events, which I used to join him on, suddenly they were closed and I was no longer invited. So it was all kinds of super fun red flags that I actually put together pretty quickly. I mean, he did this over the course of several months before I put it together and confronted him. And then he literally left that day. All right, take care. Bye.
Oh boy. Did you have any of these? Did you have
Oh
the
yes,
losing weight
yes,
and the dressing and
yes. I mean that's the thing, and you think you're sort of quite pleased with them as well, aren't you? You know, years of weight putting on, slobbing around on the sofa, not really caring, and then all of a sudden they are at the gym, diet and exercise and all the rest of it, and yeah, it's not for you; it's for somebody else.
Yeah, I see teeth whitening a lot. That came up a lot, like sudden interest in dental care. Like,
We get the shoddy dental care. Uh,
yes, yeah,
they get
we don't get it.
shiny white teeth.
I
So
have to
I also
say,
think this. I think this business about being on the phone all the time as well and taking the
oh,
phone
yeah.
absolutely everywhere.
That's totally classic. I think I started my book with that one. I get that letter so many times, is that they have this very they have interesting bathroom habits that their phone has to come with them to the bathroom. And when do you ever bring your phone to your bathroom unless you're being shady? I mean, you're expecting a very important call from your mother or something. Okay, maybe. But but really, who routinely brings their cell phone into the bathroom? You know?
No, definitely. But I think again because you trust that you believe all the lies they tell because you wouldn't tell those lies. It takes a long time for some of us to see. You look back and you think it's obvious. Why would anyone want to take their phones into the bathroom non-stop? And also, why would they suddenly take out the phone
Selfies.
to
They're
go on
taking
business?
selfies.
Yeah. Why would they be on business travel? Why would they? I mean, with mine, it was working extremely long hours. I felt sorry for him, but actually, of course, he wasn't working long hours. And all these red flags that other people go, well, why didn't you spot it? The reason you don't spot it is because you're a trusting person and you judge them by your own standards.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, it's like, is this a joke, but it's not outside the laws of physics, right? Many of us have had to work long hours or put in extra shifts sometimes, or work really does get busy. And again, you're offering that grace to your partner. Of course, I understand, I'll have dinner ready for you. Whatever it is, like you go that extra mile because you think they're going that extra mile, right? They're working so hard. Oh, aren't and it's they're weaponizing your kindness and your understanding, and that's what makes it so insidious and ugly. I think the other thing that I could relate to this one is that he goes on all these business functions and these he has to be gone for this, that, or the other thing, and she's never invited. And if she sort of says, "Oh, maybe I'd like to go to that," he like shuts that down. And I am very suspicious. If you're like married and you're never invited to anything, like, oh, that's other people know and you don't know.
Potential secret double life.
Yeah, they don't
Um,
want the worlds to collide, right?
I would say some of the biggest things I can recall now is just looking back, and he always had things that he had to do. There was always a problem that he had to fix at one of our businesses. And another red flag was he always had the phone with him. And if it was in the house, he would either have it on silent or at least have it face down. I remember a few times being in the car and a message would show up, and you could tell that he was freaking out because he had it put to his screen in his vehicle so you could actually see the number and the message. There were a couple of times I caught things that way. But yeah, red flags, just the phone. Phone was the biggest thing. Always had it glued to him. Oh, and then he would type people's names differently. Either put extra letters in it so that you wouldn't look for it if you were typing it, or wouldn't find it, I should say, if you were typing it, or he would put them under something completely different, like plumber, or I don't know. It was just crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
it's stuff on the
It makes
phone.
me wonder if he didn't read these tips on some like cheater site, like, hey, change the names in your cell phone or add numbers. It just seems like I don't know, next level spycraft. Like you've thought this out. You have strategies. You have little devices to get to throw people off your trail. And that's like, I mean, that's enough. You know, you have one misspelled name, you have a whole cell phone full of misspelled names, like next. You know, I don't know. That one I
Typing people's name. Yeah, that's strange. But again, there's a common theme here, and they are stunning in their lack of originality, actually. Although they think that they're very special and original beasts.
well, that's
I
why I think
found
they're sharing tips. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I found this one. This is the one that nearly got me.
Heather says, accusing me of cheating or wanting to cheat.
Exactly the same thing happened to me where he'd be in floods of tears saying, "You're cheating on me, you've been up to no good." He came up with a list of people that I was supposed to be cheating with. And my theory at the time was, well, if he was having an affair, why would he care? Why would he think
Hmm.
I was having an affair? So I actually took that as a sign that he wasn't having an affair because I found it so odd that anybody that was having an affair would be so involved in what I was up to. But again, this is quite a common thing,
Oh,
isn't
it's
it?
super common. And okay, so the other devious part about your cheating thing is it makes you go into apoplexies of reassurance. Like, oh no, how could you think of that? And then you pick me dance harder, right? Oh, you poor thing, you must be feeling insecure. What can I do to show you how much I love you? I mean, that's how they want you to react, right? And it throws you off their trail because the best defense is a good offense. So accuse you. And also it seeds the narrative in your head that this is a person who very much opposes cheating. They're a straight arrow, man. They would never do that because they're incensed. They think you would do it. And there's also that toxic thing about how like, oh, he's jealous, he must care, which we've got to get that out of our culture. But I got that. Sure, I got that. When I had my D Day, I think one of the first D Day, the first things he said to me was, "How do I know you're not cheating on me?" And I like saw red. I got so mad. It's not a proud moment. But I had this watch. I was looking for something to throw at his head, and I threw my watch across the room. It was a nice watch. I really love my watch. It like broke, but I was just like, "How dare you!" And I knew he was cheating. This is even before like I knew, but this is like I just had this discovery, and I'm like, "How dare you put this on me?" Oh, yeah, it's a real red flag. If somebody's constantly accusing you of cheating, it's probably them.
I
Yeah.
almost felt quite flattered that he thought that somebody else would cheat with me, though, because
Oh,
this resonates with what Josephine says. Josephine says he got so mean to me, mean and hateful, and his behavior to me became so horrible that I lost all my sort of self-esteem really, and I began to sort of worry what it was that was driving him to be so horrible. And I think this is a common thing as well, where suddenly they retreat and they're really deeply unpleasant, and it becomes, you almost dread them coming in because
Yeah.
they're in a horrible mood, they barely speak to you, they don't engage in family life, and you assume it's something you've done, but it's
No,
not
they're
them.
oh yeah. Oh, and well, they're playing compare and contrast, right? They're looking at Sparkles and their fabulous life with their fuck buddy and comparing it to the drudgery of whatever, four children and you know cats or whatever it is at home, and they're glum and they're sad and they can't have everything that they want, and so they have to devalue you. I would add to like the mean thing is whenever they're defensive and angry. When I look back at like the red signs of when he was cheating on me, it was exactly that. It was like this irrational anger or like disproportionate anger at really stupid offenses. And it's also the sign of somebody who's like abusive and you shouldn't be with them anyway, but just blowing up out of like really stupid shit.
David says, none. Zero. Never in a million years did I imagine she was even capable of such vile, hurtful actions that would cause me and our children such emotional agony. I thought she was the most sensitive, empathetic person I'd ever met, and to whom our family was the most important thing in her life.
David, this one made me sad. I'm like, because I get it. Like, this guy didn't see any red flags, right? He just fully trusted.
I think, that the high opinion he had, most sensitive, empathetic person, felt that family was important. And then I think that's really hard when you're just suddenly blindsided like that, no signs, and then you find out about what's going on.
Yeah, I think too that's why it's so disorienting when you make these discoveries of someone's double life. It's like I had this idea of who you were and I didn't know you at all. Like you're a stranger to me. Like the whole time you were pretending to be invested in our family life, you were checked out. Like you had another life. And I, it's so hard to wrap your mind around. And I think this guy's like looking back for the signs, and he's like, I didn't see any.
And
I
when the hurt is so deep and the signs are just not there, it's impossible. It's so difficult to come to terms with it. But sometimes, like let's hear what Sarah says here, because I think this is not uncommon when it is a bill that arrives that you suddenly think, hang on, what's going on here?
Sarah says, credit card bill arrived for a credit card I didn't know about with a company called Avid Dating Life on it. Somehow, classic Darvo I see now, turned it around on me. And yes, that's part of the company that bought out AM.
Well, in the case of mine, he had a PO box where he diverted all his mail, so I never saw it. So that's why I'm like credit reports, people. Fine. Ask for them in your divorces, discovery. Figure out where those bills are going. But this guy was dumb enough to have it sent to home. I guess he thought she'd never look at the mail. I don't know. Look, what was he thinking there? But yeah, and that the charge was to Ashley Madison, or the company that bought Ashley Madison.
Although I still so I remember when my ex was having an affair, and this notifications flashed up on his phone saying that he had some new uniform dating matches. And and
I'm
and
sorry.
and really, and
Laugh.
at this point, I had no suspicion he was having an affair or trying to. Obviously, this was in the trying to phase. And so I confronted him. I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he managed to convince me that he wasn't on uniform dating and that his friend was a joke and he wasn't there at all. And
Oh my
yeah,
God.
but of course, friends, that's a hilarious joke, isn't it? To sign your married friend with 4 young children up to a dating site. And I believe that. So I can
Yeah.
still imagine that even if you are confronted with the evidence of the credit card bill, I can still imagine some people would make a desperate attempt to talk themselves out of that. And in some cases actually be successful.
Oh yeah, I cannot tell you how many times I've heard, well, Verizon, the cell phone carrier, whatever, made a mistake here on this billing. I'm going to call them up and give them a piece of my mind. Or yes, I have read my friends set me up. It was a joke with friends. That's so cliched. That one happens all the time. To which I say, call the friends. Ask them, hey, did you sign him up? You know, am I in on the joke? Did you sign me up for a dating site? Um, yeah, it's just completely. Although I have to say, the other woman in my case, yeah, she did some like cyber stalking and signed me up on a dating site. That was fun. And then she put all this insulting stuff in for what I look like and how tall I was. And yeah,
Oh, charming.
yeah, totally charming. Yeah,
Charming
signed me up for
devil
political
woman.
spam magazines. Yeah, the whole thing. I mean, I was just, to which I'm like, what on earth did you? I mean, yeah, don't untangle the skein, but
Yeah, there was a special breed of dysfunction you were exposed to here. Um,
yeah.
there's more that have come in, so let's hear what Laurie has to say.
Laurie says his words never consistently matched his actions. Lack of close friends.
Yeah, I think these two are really big ones. I think the words not aligning with the deeds. We kind of talked about this in the beginning. I think that's super important to pay attention to. Does someone do what they say they're going to do? And if they can't do it, right, because we all have busy lives and things come up, are they apologetic and do they make it right? And do they take accountability for when they change those plans? Or do they gaslight you? I never said that. Or why are you making such a big deal about it? I mean, absolutely watch for people who are consistent in their words and deeds. Did you have that? Did you have that incongruity?
Yeah. Yeah, sort of talking constantly about being magnificent, being quite special, being, top of the game when it came to career, loads of talk about, how he was going to advance. And then actually that translated into lying on the sofa doing very little. Again, I think this lack of close friends is quite an interesting one because
Hmm.
close friendships require an investment
Yeah.
and it requires you giving back. And sometimes this is a common theme where cheaters don't have a lot of close friends because it's too much effort.
Yeah, the therapist I was seeing when I was going through this, that was one of his bits of advice that in his experience, the people who are fuckwits don't have close friends. They don't have, they might have like superficial friendships, like people they know at work or people they don't know very well, like their neighbors and stuff, but they don't have long-term bosom buddies, people that have stuck with them for, they tend to be flitting and superficial and not deeply connected to anybody. So beware.
Yeah. I think phones are a common theme in here, and this is an interesting one from Nancy.
Nancy says you mysteriously no longer have their location on Find My Phone.
Yeah, so the whole, do you know, have the Apple Find Your Phone, the geolocating device? Yeah, so I put this one in there because I thought technology is kind of a giveaway. Like suddenly, if you're in this marriage, you should be an open book. My technology is your technology, or a lot of families have like family plans and you can see where each other people are. And suddenly, like, that's turned off. Like, why? If your teenager did that, you'd want to know why. Like, you can't see where they are. Yeah, I don't know. This guy's up to no
It all
good.
sounds so obvious, but at the time, again, you come up with all sorts of justifications and reasons why they might have um, turned it off. But again,
It was a glitch, Sarah. The power went out and my phone rebooted, and I didn't know. I didn't mess with those settings. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think this ties in actually with what Fiona says, because quite often we try and convince ourselves that it's us that's got these strange thoughts in our head, and they're not cheating. So let's have a listen to what Fiona says.
Fiona says, I gaslighted myself so aggressively, it always felt like my brain was trying to sabotage me. It felt like my subconscious decided he was cheating. I wasn't actively aware of any evidence, but I'd dream about him leaving us for the AP, and I'd wake up and be annoyed that my brain was trying to fuck with me. So I obviously picked up on something. I just couldn't tell you what it was.
I this one makes me want to just give her a hug because I think a lot of us can relate to this. It's like the that gut feeling that sense of being off balance and you don't have the evidence, right? Or maybe you haven't gone looking for it, or the bill hasn't arrived at the doorstep, you don't know. But like part of you knows, like your gut knows. So you know that this person is being shady and it works your way into your dreams. And yeah, I think I have done whole blogs or Friday challenges on the dreams that people have about being cheated on. And like, what did you know before you knew it? You know, did you have any portents and omens and feelings?
Well, it was just horrible. Really what we've been talking about here, the glued to the phone, the losing weight, the not being there, the being
Yeah.
horrible. They weren't actually feelings, but my gut was saying, well, this isn't right. But my instinct was saying, well, bless him, midlife crisis, to all the things that you read about. And so ignoring what were very tangible and real signs, but pretending that they weren't, because I didn't want to believe he was having an affair. So actually, your brain does mess with you because you're trying to protect yourself from the harsh reality that your relationship might be coming to an end. So you
Yeah.
do try, but it's actually quite nice, quite reassuring to convince yourself that there's no affair and it's just something else going on that can be sorted and solved and mended, and you don't have to accept that your whole life is going to change.
Yeah, but it bubbles up, right? In this case, Fiona's self-conscious was like letting her know, like, something's not right here, something's not right. And then you find out. I mean, I remember when I went through it. Now, I'd had a D-Day, right? So I knew he was cheating. But of course, like everybody, you don't know the full extent of it. And I remember I woke up from a dream and somebody within an acquaintance, I'm like, oh my God, she was one of the other women. Like, how did it not dawn on me? And it turned out, yeah, she was. But it came to me kind of in a dream. Like my subconscious was gnawing on it. And then I woke up and I put it together and then got confirmation that I was correct. But I think a lot of us get stress illnesses, when you're dealing with a cheater. I, I don't know the science behind this, but if you're interested in this particular rabbit hole, check out Dr. Omar Manwala because he talks a lot about the harm that secret sexual basements do to the chump, and that even if you're not aware of it, it's still harming you, right? He takes apart the whole what you don't know can't hurt you. It can hurt you. You are being hurt, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this this next one, I actually this didn't happen to me at all. I'm not aware of any of the. Oh, actually, no. Yes, no. There was some inappropriate behaviours. This is from Chloe. Let's see what Chloe has to say.
Chloe says, how he was inappropriate with a few female friends of mine. He had zero boundaries, heavily flirting, joking, to the point it made my friends and their SOs uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, the flirty thing. Yeah, because they're so wonderful and sparkly. They're just sharing their sparkles or their narkles, whatever they are. I don't. Was yours flirty?
Not flirty, no, but very needy. So a very good
Oh,
close friend of mine. We had young children, and he was always round at her house, and I think he was trying to sort of
oh.
lure her away with the promise of doing his laundry. And so he'd take the washing round, he'd ask her how to mend the washing machine, always round there with the toddlers, to the point that actually that her sister said to her, "That man is, why is he always here? I think he's after you." And
Mm.
I think she wasn't obviously interested in this charming opportunity to take on
To
somebody.
do his laundry? Are you kidding me? Like he has a chump. He needs more chumps. He needs more appliances in his life. That is crazy. How have I not heard the laundry story? That's
But it
that's
was it was again it was a lack of boundaries. So behaving in a way that he started to make her feel uncomfortable, thinking, "What is going on here? Why is he doing this?"
mm.
And that again is quite a common thing.
Yeah. I had mine wasn't overtly flirty with other people, but I did have one weird thing when I was dating him. We were going to meet at an art gallery. Like a friend was having an opening or something, and it was in Georgetown in DC. And he screwed up the time. Like, anyway, he got there before me, which wasn't like him. He usually wasn't like an early person. And when I showed up, he was flirting. He was engaged heavily talking to this attractive woman. And I came up and like the stupid chump I am, I'm like, hi, I got here. Da, da, da. And she turns to me and something was going on. And she goes, oh, I just met him. And he was telling me like how wonderful you are.
Of
And
course.
I thought, and even at the time I thought, I don't think that was what's going on. You know, I don't think so.
Hindsight is a wonderful thing. You look back at these things and you just wonder how you were ever able to believe some of
Oh,
these.
so stupid. So stupid, right? But we all feel that way. We all feel that way. Well, it's been a while since we've had a fuckwit of the week. You know, I think we've revived this, so which as we should. So send us your stories.
They're shameless, unreliable, and gobsmackingly entitled. It's Fuckwit of the Week.
Teresa says, "Hi, Tracy. So I am Teresa. I am the woman that had messaged a couple of weeks ago to tell you that my husband had put a tattoo on his arm because he was totally pissed off when he heard me listening to your audiobook, Leave a Cheater, Gain a Life. So yes, he did a moral compass on his arm with my little initial T as part of the compass, and he put a white unicorn with a red eye on his arm. Yes, he did. Kid you not."
Oh, that's a fuckwit.
You've inspired a tattoo. I mean, that's quite impressive. You must be pleased with yourself.
I love that she tells him he doesn't have a moral compass. That's how this whole thing started, by the way. I should have set it up. She confronts him and says, "You don't have a moral compass." And then he gets a moral compass tattoo. That's just like, that's next level. Now you'll believe me,
he's
right?
right,
I'm
though.
not cheating.
He does have a moral compass, just not quite in the way other people would interpret a moral compass.
Right? It even has a unicorn on it. Like, he's a unicorn, Sarah, because it's tattooed on his body.
It's going to be quite interesting, though. If anyone looks at that strange combination of tattoos and says, "Why have you had that done on it? What provoked that?" And then he's going to have to explain his weird dysfunctional behavior.
Oh
So
no, he's got that whole lie filled out for the next one and the next one. The next one is like, "Hey babe, you can trust me. I got a moral compass. It's here on my bicep and everything." You
Do
know?
you know what, Tracy? I think that it's been a while since we've done these, but I think maybe we should do an episode
Oh,
dedicated
fuckwits.
to these antics. So I think that's the challenge for next week to see what we can come up with and whether we've got any that can compete with creating your own moral compass in two environment rather than an actual moral compass as it's meant to be.
Okay, that's our episode. That wraps another episode of Tell Me How You're Mighty. You want to leave us a mighty story or a fuckwit of the week submission? Check out our new website, tellmehowyourmighty.com. That's yours spelt YOURE. We've got all the episodes, show notes, links to our guests, and you can see the tea room where Sarah and I first met. If you enjoyed this episode, please review the podcast and follow us. Thanks. See you next week.